Welcome to Caps and Cocktails with T. I'm T, and today we're going to be checking out a couple Skelly caps and mixing up a great cocktail to go with it. This is my first video, so I thought I'd just kind of start by sharing how I got started collecting caps. Throughout the years, I picked up a couple flat caps from like Amazon or a department store, just to mostly wear like around St. Patrick's Day. But when I really got into cap collecting was a couple years ago, around Christmas time. And of course, my wife, Danny, she knows that I love caps and she loves Christmas. And I get introduced the Scrooge cap. And I don't know if that was any kind of indication of, I mean, she loves Christmas and I just like it, not love it. But anyway, so she got me the Scrooge cap, and that kind of started my going down the rabbit hole, I guess you could say, of cap collecting. But anyway, so then when the boxes come and she's like, "Oh, is that another cap?" I'm like, "Well, you kind of did this to me. You kind of created the madness, helped me create the madness." So anyway, but she really doesn't mind. But anyway, that's how I got started cap collecting, and I have 91 caps currently. And as far as how I store them, well, my office used to be office, spare bedroom. Now it's office and cap storage. So anyhow, that's kind of how I got started. And, I just thought, I like to make drinks also in my bar. So I thought, well, the two together, I can show off a cap, each week of my current collection and make a cocktail. Maybe a little bit of that being therapy for me, but just to be fun. I'm not really into reviewing as far as rating or grading caps, because I just really think that caps are kind of personal for people. Different people like different styles, whether that be the flat caps or 8 panels or 6 panels. Some people prefer, more just one color caps. Some people prefer patchwork. So I just think it'd be really hard to actually give a grading system to a cap, because I think everybody's just so unique and they're kind of personal about what we like and what we don't really care for in caps. So anyway, just to kind of keep it fun. So the first cap that I'm going to show is from Boston Skelly. And Boston Skelly, they were founded in 2012. And that was by Mike Arone, and that's out of Boston, Massachusetts. And among the cap clubs that I belong to, most of us did get started by collecting caps from Boston Skelly. They're one of the largest. And then, of course, other hat makers, we get introduced to them. So a lot of them making hats right here in the United States. And it's just, it's really kind of cool to kind of see all the different hat makers that are out there doing this awesome caps. So I kind of still do get Boston Skelly caps, but I tend to find myself really checking out some of the smaller hat makers to help to support their businesses. So, but this is from Boston Skelly, and this was released a few weeks ago. This was to honor the it's called the 250 anniversary, and this was just like more of a, a kind of one and done type thing for this year. So it's, as a cap collector, of course, I really wanted to have this hat in my collection. America only turns 250 years just one time. Initially, I wasn't like drawn to it, but it really looks a lot better in person. If you can it's 100% polyester, and you can kind of see the coloring of it. It's limited edition. You've got the red piping, and you've got the colonial tan, and of course the patriot blue. So it also does have like vintage hardware on it, if you can see that, which are the stars. So it's more like a military type historical styling to this one. And then, of course, the inside does also indicate that's the 250th anniversary. So I'll put it on. And I honestly, I haven't really worn this one out other than to try it on before, but it's a nice cap. Definitely, I'm glad I got it for part of my collection. Yeah, I mean, it fits perfect. I mean, I wear a size small typically, sometimes an extra small depending, but yeah, it's kind of a nice cap. Nice thing about the bar stools is they spin, so I can do a quick spin. A little tighter there on the knees, but anyway. And then Boston Skelly, they usually will have pins that they offer up. You buy the cap, and then they'll have a pin or pins that you can purchase separately to go along with that. So I did get 3 pins that came out with this cap. The first one is the 250th anniversary pin, and then I also did pick up the flag pin. And then the third one that they had was the Liberty Bell. So I did pick up that pin too. And, you know, with pins, when I first started getting caps, I wasn't all that like really interested in making sure I got the pin that goes with the hat. I just got like the hats, the caps. But over time, again, you know, the collector in me is like, well, I want to have the pin that goes with the cap. So, and a lot of people wear them on their hats. I usually don't. Once in a while, I'll put one of them on, of course, but my thing is that I don't want to make a hole. I don't want to put a hole in the cap itself, but if I had to choose and I'm just going to say, well, I'm going to leave this pin on there, I would probably put it right there and place it right there, you know. So, but they are kind of cool to have along with the cap that matches it, but I usually don't put a whole lot of pins on my caps. So that's the first one. And then because it was released for the first time, Boston Skelly does a nice thing where they give you a gift, and that comes with a dust bag. When they first come out for the first time, and that's when you usually get the bags. Otherwise, they don't really, but they're kind of nice. I mean, kind of usually, not always, but usually the dust bag themselves, it's just got a couple drawstrings here to zip that up. But it's nice to keep your caps in, you know, for sure. And it does match the inside liner of this particular cap. And most of the time you see that, but not always. But they are nice, you know, to have that kind of a gift along with the cap. And then I usually only was going to show one cap, but I really wanted to show the other one. And this also is from Boston Skelly. You know, this year I think there were a lot of hat makers that did put out because of being 250th anniversary. So I do have a few others that I picked up this year too, but this one is also from Boston Skelly. But this one was actually released last year, and this is called the United. And I wanted to get it last year, but they sold out so quickly, so they brought them back this year. So I was able to snag one of these. And yeah, this one I was drawn to right away last year, and I was kind of bummed I didn't get it, but I was glad they brought them back. It's a flat cap, just like the other one was. Yeah, just super cool. I really like the vibe of it. A little bit of nostalgia there too, I think, for me with this cap. And then, of course, just like Boston Skelly does, they usually will put then the emblem of the cap. So that's the United. That's the inside liner. And this one is actually softer. It's 50% cotton and 50% polyester. So it's a 50 poly cotton blend, where the other one, I don't know if I mentioned that or not, was 100% polyester. So it was more of the texture, not real soft, but this one, I really love it. Flat caps, I like all the styles of caps, the flat caps, which are these, or single panels. There's also 8 panels, 6 panels, but I just really tend to like the flat panels. Just what more I'm comfortable in. So I'll kind of give a spin so you can see it all the way around. But yeah, and this one also did come with a pin, so I was able to get that one. Now, sometimes these pins sell out like within a couple minutes, so you have to be quick on the draw. But this is the pin, the United pin. That goes with this cap. And if I were to place it, I'd probably place it on a seam, you know, so I wouldn't put a hole in the actual cap. But, and then I also picked up another pin that I thought was pretty cool too, and that's just the eagle pin. So that's with the that's with the pins. The other thing that I think just brought back the nostalgia of this cap for me is that, you know, my dad used to ride motorcycles, and he had a couple Hondas. He had a brown Honda. I can't remember what kind of what style it was. But then he had later on in life, then he had a Honda Goldwing, which then him and my mom would take trips, you know, all over the place riding that. But I do remember like early memories of, and my mom says, yeah, you know, your dad had you on his motorcycle when you were 2, 3, 4 years old. And he would take a belt, you know, and just belt me in and right in front of him, and he'd take me on his motorcycle, and that's when he had the brown Honda. But the biggest thing I remember about that, and I think why that this brought back so much memories too, is that the helmet that I had was the red, white, and blue helmet. Like just I mean, of course not identical to this, but it had all the things, you know. So I remember that, and I wish, you know, there was some picture that had been out there that had the two of us with, you know, with me wearing my helmet, my red, white, and blue helmet, because it just totally, you know, was like, yeah, I kind of remember that. And then my mom's like, oh yeah, he had you all the time on that. And I remember the helmet, and as much of a hoarder as my parents have been through the years, that helmet's gone, so it'd been kind of cool if I had still had that one. And then the other piece of that with the nostalgia of this cap is the movie Easy Rider. And, you know, it's an oldie back in 1969, and it was about, you know, if you've seen it, I just kind of watched it throughout the years, you know, a couple times, about two bikers that are heading from LA, and they're on their way to New Orleans for Mardi Gras. And the characters, I had to look it up and remember, but I remember, you know, Peter Fonda being, you know, in there, and he was Wyatt, or Captain America. And then Billy was played by Dennis Hopper, and then George Hansen character was played by Jack Nicholson. Well, I mean, it's a riot, hysterical Jack Nicholson is in this, but Peter Fonda was then, again, you know, coming back to the colors in this cap, the helmet, you know, the helmet that I had, you know, and his motorcycle also, the red, white, and blue. So I think that's another reason that kind of the nostalgia of this particular cap. But and then in the movie itself, it's funny because, you know, they meet Jack Nicholson, both Peter Fonda and Dennis Hopper. They're on their way, you know, they're on their Harleys, and then they get thrown in jail. I can't remember the exact reason, but anyway, Peter Fonda, who is played by, you know, George Hansen, the character, he's a lawyer, like the town drunk lawyer, I guess. And so, you know, he gets him out of jail. He's kind of, you know, checking these guys out, and they're kind of standing for freedom right back then. And he's kind of invites himself to, like, hey, I'd like to go to Mardi Gras. And so Peter Fonda is like, well, do you have a helmet? And I think the exact words, I had it right down. He said, oh, I've got a helmet. I got a beauty, you know. And then, you know, you see then the next frame in the movie that, you know, here he is on the back of the Harley, and the helmet itself that he has is like a vintage gold leather, hard plastic American football helmet, you know. And so it's just hysterical. See this goofy, you know, guy, Jack Nicholson, on the back of that with his big helmet, you know, American football helmet, which, you know, it's a team up north, you can tell because it's gold and it has a blue stripe down the middle. And in the movie, you can also, he has the, you know, the team up north light indication on his, it's probably his undergrad, you know, he had that sweater and then had the football helmet. But it's hysterical. It's a good movie. You know, if I was real tech savvy and I had time to figure these things out, I could probably put a clip of that picture right here, and I'll figure it out, be able to do it. But this is, like I said, I didn't spend the extra time to learn how to do editing, so this is what it is, blooper and all on this video. I'm not editing nothing until I get it figured out, and maybe by the next video I will. But anyhow, so, gosh. All right, so let's make a drink. All right, so I think what I'm gonna do, my drink, it's just gonna label it the 250, you know, just kind of in honor of what, you know, this year being the 250th anniversary. It might taste a little bit like a bomb pop. I did make it. I have made different versions of this, but we'll just kind of get right to the drink. So first thing is the ingredients. So not many ingredients. The grenadine, I'm going to put that in the bottom, and that's only like 1 ounce. So 1 ounce of grenadine, and I put it in the cup before I put the ice in, because I'm going to try to layer it so that the colors stay separate. Sometimes that's a little tricky to do, but it's easier if you put this in first, if you're using, you know, the grenadine. And that's some ice here. Then I'll fill up my cup with ice. That'll help keep help try to keep the layers separate. You can also crush ice and almost make a slushy of it, and that's pretty good to do it that way too. So I got the ice in. So next I'm going to do the next layer, which normally I would use vodka, and I would usually do like 1.5 ounces of vodka here. But I realized I used the rest of my Tito's, so I did find this behind the bar, which is blueberry lemonade rum. So I thought that'd be pretty good with this. And it's not as strong as Tito's as far as, I think it's only 21%. So instead of 1.5 ounces, I'll probably use 2 ounces of that, make it a little tighter. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna fill this, put this cup aside for a second. I'm gonna fill this up so I can mix the two together. I can mix my rum, and also I can mix the lemonade, which I left in the fridge. Hold, please. Okay, so I'm gonna give this a good shake. And lemonade, you can use whatever kind you want. I tend to like simply lemonade. I think it's not too awful tart. It's got enough sweetness to it. So this next layer that I'm going to make, the white layer, is going to be a combination of the blueberry lemonade rum, which again, sometimes I just use Tito's, and the simply lemonade. So when I'm measuring, I'm going to go with, again, because it's not as potent as like some other liquors I've used, I'm going to go with 2 ounces. And when I'm in my bar, I don't typically measure a whole lot, but for this purpose I am. So that, oh, by the way, that's 2 ounces right there. So that's 2 ounces. The other side is the 1 ounce. So 2 ounces. And then the lemonade, I guess I'm just going to do 3 ounces of lemonade. Again, this is 2 ounces. Half of this would be, of course, 1 ounce. Or I could flip it over and use the other side, but it's fine. Okay, so then I'm going to give this a good stir around. Blend the lemonade and the rum together. And put my strainer on there. Okay, bring my cup back over. I'm gonna pour it pretty slower than, because I want it to try not to bleed all the way through to the red, so I can have like at least a clear distinction between the red grenadine and the white in the middle. Yeah, I need one of those hourglass things. This takes a minute just to get it right. And you know, the bulk of your drink is going to be the lemonade, obviously, and the blueberry lemon rum in this case. Okay, so I think that looks good. And then the last ingredient on this drink is just going to be blue curacao. Some people call it blue Croco, blue curacao, I don't know, but this stuff. And this is where you got to really take your time and pour, because you know, you were so far. Oh, that's better. So far, we're doing pretty good with the red and the white separated. You can pour this pretty slowly, put it on the back of a spoon, just kind of let it drizzle down. And still, even doing that, it's not always going to stay at the top to keep that separation. But with this ingredient, yeah, you can use 1 ounce of it. So I'm just kind of judging it. I didn't pour it into one of the things, but I'd say that's probably 1 ounce. Okay, so yeah, if I would have taken my time a little slower, I would have clearly had the red, white, and the blue, but it kind of did mix through rather good. But it's okay. It's still gonna taste good. I know that. Because I'm always a little bit extra with my garnishes. Of course, you know, I thought this was pretty fun for a topper thing here. But I've got some cherries that I'm going to use for a garnish, and I've got some blueberries and some lemons. So, and you can use just you know, the maraschino cherries or whatever, but I don't know, I tend to get different kinds of cherries. The darker ones are a little tastier, and I use a lot of those darker cherries in my different drinks. So we're just going to kind of use that, or skewer, put us a cherry on there, grab some blueberries, load that up with a few blueberries. Oh, we got room for another cherry, so yeah, so let's do that. Look at that guy, he's pretty cool. So I put him in there like that, and then I already have the lemons already cut, and so there you go. So that's a 250. Make sure you have a straw. I know it tastes good. It's a pretty sweet drink, but it's good. All right, well, here's to great caps and great cocktails and even better stories. Cheers.